25 FM, WSKB, Westfield.
Hey, Kathy, it's serious time now.
I know. We'll be good.
Yep.
Behave.
Don't get serious on my account.
I gotta go this way.
Oh, you want me to be serious about this one, Rick. Each and every election cycle, I think the last 5 cycles now, we've had city council candidates come in to chat for 25, 30 minutes. And even if they're unopposed, it's great to have them come in because it's a great opportunity to address constituents, to talk about things going on, where they stand on issues. And with the long format here,
We also want
works
to put a
out.
face to the name because I know that a lot of people are no longer getting newspapers.
Yep.
They don't always see it. And a lot of people are not heavily invested in the city business. And it's important, Rick, for them to know who you are, what you're doing, and what you're doing for the city, which is a great deal of work.
and that brings us to the
it's really
first
important.
question, actually.
Excellent.
Every candidate is offered to come in here. Most take it up. And unlike, as I was saying earlier, unlike a news clip or something where you only get 5-6 minutes, we have some time to dive into things.
Yep.
But first, who is Rick Sullivan? Where are you from? What do you do?
Well, I'm kind of been here. I've been here for a while now, so well over 50 years, and went through the public school system here in Westfield, and this is kind of my second tenure on the city council. So I've been on the council a total of 8 years, 4 from before and 4 this time. And then obviously I was mayor in the city of Westfield from '94 through June 11th of 2007.
Wow, that's a long
and
time.
7 election cycles.
Wow, good for you.
And let me just say thank you to you and to the station. This is a great forum and important, and for all the reasons that you said. And I think in all of those election cycles, and I've been in a few, I've taken advantage of that because I do think it's important to have those conversations. But in June of 2007, I was asked by Governor Patrick to join his administration as the DCR commissioner, which most people think of as the state parks. So 450,000 acres in the Commonwealth in Massachusetts, from the New York line all the way out to Cape Cod. It's surprisingly the 9th largest state park system in the country.
Interesting.
Little old Massachusetts. And most of the acreage is out here in Western Mass because it's in the state forests and in the larger state parks. But it goes all the way down to little pocket parks down in the city of Boston. So, but what the governor failed to tell me, and when you go on the website, you see all these great parks, and it really is a gem in the Commonwealth. But what they failed to tell me is that I was also in charge of all the parkway system, so Storrow Drive and Soldier Field Road, and a lot of the mostly roads around the city of Boston and Metro Boston, but more road miles than the Massachusetts Turnpike. So it was
I'm sure.
actually the second largest system. And then all the bridges, so the Longfellow Bridge, the Charles River Bridge, the BU Bridge, were all original.
Wonderful.
And by the way, they were all structurally deficient. And so, as I used to tell my wife, I said, if you hear that the Longfellow Bridge just fell into the Charles River, I'll be home and unemployed. And she goes, well, it's not your fault. And it's like, well, no, it's not, but you're not going to fire the governor.
will.
So,
Right. Yeah. Somebody has to take the fall.
yeah, and then it also.
Literally?
Yeah, there you go. And then, over 2,400 dams in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, all of which were at the time pretty structurally deficient. So a lot of things that you wouldn't necessarily fell under DCR. And I think, as I said, it's kind of the agency when they didn't know where to put it, they put it at DCR. So did that for 3.5 years, and then he asked me to be in his cabinet as Secretary of Energy and Environmental Affairs. So I did that for 3.5 years, and then I closed out the administration as his chief of staff and did the transition from the Patrick administration to what was the Baker administration.
Right.
And then, as luck would have it, the opening happened over at the Western Mass Economic Development Council, and so I've been the CEO, president over there for almost 10 years now.
10 years already.
Yeah. So as everybody says, your new job, and I said, well, it's just my latest job because I haven't been able to keep one for very long. So.
Okay. Yeah, I think at the opening of the bike path, something was said about that.
Yes. Although the highway commissioner, who actually used to be an engineer at DCR for me, he goes, oh, the best boss I ever had. And he was like, well, your 2 bosses are sitting behind me. So I think you really mean, you're other than the current bosses.
Other than.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jonathan Gulliver's a great guy.
You mentioned bridges, but you know what? We're going to be talking about roads here, and I didn't really bring up anything about bridges because the big thing now is the Coles, and we know where we're at with that.
Yep.
But basically, number 2 here: roads, schools, and public safety are all important, right?
Yep.
How can cuts be made now that ESSER and ARPA funds are no longer in play? I'm talking about the upcoming budget.
Yeah. So, I have always been, I think even back to my days when I ran for mayor, one of the reasons I ran was for the educational system. I really think it is the most important thing that a community does and provides. It is certainly the largest piece of the budget, and it's because it's people. It's the teachers in the classroom, it's the support people. And we need to invest in that. So that has always been and always will be of primary importance to me. Not to minimize all the other things, but I do think education is important. It's our future. It kind of says what the city is to the outside world and makes Westfield an attractive place to come and live. And by the way, to do business, because they are concerned about where their kids are going to go to school, where their employees' kids are going to go to school, what the quality of the workforce that's going to be developed looks. I think, we're sitting in, quite frankly, one of the gems in the region in the academy here, formerly Voc Tech, that, is of growing importance. And, I've always been a big proponent of Voc Tech education. I don't think everybody necessarily needs to have that 4-year degree. And I think you're starting to see the hiring by larger companies reflect that. Many organizations are actually eliminating the requirement of a 4-year or in some cases even a 2-year. The state of Pennsylvania, just for almost all jobs, not all, but almost all jobs, got rid of the 4-year degree requirement.
I've seen experience replace the degree now.
Yeah, so it's basically skill set hiring. And at the EDC, we've been big proponents of that. I've been proponent of it back, in the course of the history of my elected life. You don't necessarily, that 4-year degree is not, the beginning and the end all. It's really the skill set that the people bring in the door when they come to work every day. So, I'm a big proponent. I think we can grow these programs. I really think that that's where the investments should be. I do think the city has, in the last few years, in terms of road maintenance, has certainly put some money over to that in terms of overlays. I think, if you're online, there's pretty much every day they're announcing what road is being overlaid or repaved. So, Westfield is a difficult community to stay on top of. We have a significant number of road miles, being the second largest landmassed city in the Commonwealth. There's a lot of road miles. I don't know, it used to be 225 miles.
I think we've added on to that.
Yeah, I think we probably have. But, the bottom line is it's a significant amount. And, like everything else, overlaying a road has not become any cheaper over time. So I think the city's done a pretty good job of staying ahead of that. So, that's really where the investments in my mind really should be. But, education's always going to be at the top.
Okay, great.
Counselor, can we have you tilt your mic up?
I was just going to go there. Yep. Yeah, I hear Peter having an issue trying to pull you in.
You could have just yelled at me way earlier than
That's
that.
okay. No.
I hear it.
I just picked up on it about 2 minutes ago, and I wanted you to finish a question.
Well, if you don't interrupt, I'll just talk for the whole 30 minutes.
Yeah. When we get towards the end, if I'm seeing we're running out, I will rush it. Right now, we're not doing too horribly. I think I know where we're going to go with question 3, based on your question or answer to number 2. Put these 3 in order: roads, school, safety.
Schools, safety, and roads.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that is a way that I think does differentiate me from some others that are on the council. And look, I've always been really clear that when you decide where your priorities, that's what elections are about. Is your candidates need to tell you what they are going to support, and what they're going to support is their number 1, 2, and 3 thing, because you can't do everything. And as somebody that's been the realist in the room a lot of times, there's only so much money to go around and only so much money you can spend. So if you're going to spend it on your priorities, that means you're going to spend it someplace else. We used to, back when I was mayor, there'd be a call every year with the rating agencies when they'd sit there and you'd have to have the conversations, with the New York investment companies about, okay, we're looking at your bond ratings, and you don't have a lot of money over here in free cash or stabilization, and it's like, no, I don't, because my money is sitting in the classroom. And so I'm investing in smaller class sizes. I'm investing in more technology. I'm investing in the resources that the teachers need to have to be able to do their jobs. And, Greg Kalfa, who was then the treasurer, would sit there and go, that's a really good answer. He goes, I don't know if they're going to buy it, but they always did. And so during, my tenure, even though we weren't necessarily, squirreling away money into some of those other accounts, which the city is in very good shape with now, and they've done things differently, which is great. But it's like, that's what's important. And so, if you're going to spend the money on education, then you're not going to have it for some other places. But, you need to support the police. I am the only counselor that's voted for all of the contracts that have come in. I think the mayor has the right to negotiate those contracts, and, barring some really significant issue, I think, the city needs to be able to go to the table and negotiate with the unions, in good faith. And I think everybody has always done that. And I think so therefore I have voted for all of the public safety contracts that have come in.
Okay, 10 minutes in already. We do need to move along a little bit more. But the good news is that last question that's what I thought was going to be the hard ball, the tough one. So on to number 4, multiple locations have been suggested for the new police department building. What is your ideal location and why?
So I have never been a fan of the what was then the South Middle School location, mostly because I just really think coming out of that lot is very difficult onto Maple Street or the back way. So I have never been a supporter of that one. I do think the church, the Blessed Sacrament, makes some sense. I think it's generally centrally located. It is of some higher elevation, because if Westfield's going to have, if you're trying to plan out where the biggest risk is to the city for a large scale emergency, most likely it's going to be involving flooding of some sort. And the
Haven't heard that one yet.
well, I mean, if you take a look at the maps that, what if there's the flood? What if Cobble Mountain let go? I mean, it's pretty.
It did flood.
It's
that
pretty.
whole area did flood where the middle school is.
So it's like, okay, why are we going to put it there? I mean, that's why, quite honestly, that's why the rail trail system is also had to be built to be able to support vehicles, because it can get them up higher. They can and be able to respond to an emergency if there should be one. It's those planning things that you might not necessarily think about. And everybody goes, well, it's only bikes. What do you need to build that to be able to hold a vehicle for? And it's like, well, they may have to put vehicles up there. So I think the church makes some sense. I will be honest that back when I was mayor and we took a look at it, we actually looked at what was then the A&P, and I know I'm really dating myself over there, but over
I remember
on
that
Franklin
one, yeah.
Street.
I know where you mean.
I would not be opposed to having it be in a downtown location. I know some ARPA monies were just spent on the Newberry site, but I think that at least deserves a look at it. I do think it would be all those sites that, with the exception of Franklin Street now, all those sites, are currently not on the tax rolls. So the city, if we don't own them, they're at least not contributing to the tax base. So not that I think that that's a beginning and an end all, but I think that those would certainly be pluses in my mind.
Great. Number 5.
Good answers.
We have been tempted by data centers and distribution centers who want to come into the north side of our city. Where there's either open land or existing buildings.
Yep.
And would obviously contribute to the tax base, but it appears it is difficult to make anyone feel welcome or wanted. What are your thoughts on that?
So I supported the council vote that supported tax incentives, a tax plan for the data center. If it came, and I was really clear at the time that, we're just providing an opportunity with this vote. Nobody should look at this vote and say they're definitely coming, because obviously, A, they're not here, and B, they might never come. But there's an opportunity here for a use on a pretty significant parcel of property, and it was multiple parcels, to put that into, very, very useful and significant tax-producing properties for the city of Westfield. Never mind the fact that there would be some jobs, not thousands of jobs, because data centers and tech centers don't tend to have huge amounts of employees. A lot of it can be done remotely. Right. So hopefully they would live here, but they don't necessarily need to be walking through the doors. So that also means that it's not other than maybe the construction, there's not a lot of traffic impacts. So you've got a high taxpayer and a low impact, at least in terms of vehicle traffic into an area that, the neighbors are really very clear that, we're not looking for any more trucks. So that has been heard, loud and clear. So I thought this was a really good use. So I do think it did pass. And so I think in terms of a welcome, as you put it, that's really about the best that the city's going to be able to do is saying, hey, look, we have a plan here that you've agreed to, that we will support. And the mayor was supportive, the council, a majority of the council, not everybody, but a majority of the council voted for it. So I think that's pretty welcoming. And Westfield has historically had a very good balance of commercial and industrial taxpayers versus the residentials. And the commercial and industrial, they pay more into taxes and they pay more in G&E, and they're the people that support the Pumpkin Fests and all the other great charity events in the community. So the commercial and industrial and the business sector provide a lot into the community, and Westfield's always had a really good balance on that. And so I think it's important to maintain that balance because you can lose it pretty quickly and you can lose it overnight. And so that's another reason why I was definitely supportive of the data center and would continue to support a project like that. Because if Westfield is really going to be able to grow its budgets and support education and still be respectful and not continually hitting the residents with tax increases, it's going to have to do that on new growth. And new growth means business and commercial.
And I did notice, if I'm remembering properly, this last budget, the tax shift did hit the businesses a little bit harder than the residents.
Westfield has a split shift, and the businesses pay more on that. It's not a flat rate, so everybody doesn't pay the same amount of money per square foot. The businesses do pay more, and that is always a debatable question every time we go to set the tax rate. And there are some that will walk in the room and say, I'm just going with the absolute lowest residential one, and then I am much more into can we find a balance that works.
And it's the same people every year that from what I see.
But you know what? I appreciate somebody when they're consistent.
Excellent. What else is consistent in town? The Turnpike. The interchange is a mess. And the backup going westbound, exiting in Westfield, it can be dangerous.
Yep.
All right. Blandford residents have said no to another exit. And we have heard of ideas of putting a slip ramp down by Savage. Why is it taking so long to correct this issue?
So at the end of the day, I'm not really looking to pass the buck, but it ultimately is at this point, Mass Highway. It used to be the Turnpike Authority, but that's melded into Mass Highway now. And it is just not hitting their radar screen that slip ramp is of that importance. I mean, look, I will give the mayor all the credit in the world. He has, if it isn't his number one issue, it's right at the top of the list. And he has worked hard with the secretaries of transportation that he's served with, and I know he's going to continue to do it. I know he has held some ARPA dollars that he has control over to be able to help, move that project along in terms of the slip ramp. But that slip ramp project has been there and designed for, close to 30 years. I mean, that was on the books back when I was mayor, and we had a couple of projects. One of them was the Target project that ultimately did not happen, and another one was a large scale lifestyle center, which is an outdoor mall that would have been on the other side of the Turnpike. That were part of both of those projects. So it's designed from a design and construction point of view. It's a very simple project because that is actually where the Mass Turnpike was originally going to go, which is why there's only that one house left that the state did not take. that road will go all the way. I mean, you need to do some work and you need to do some engineering, but it's not significant in the scheme of things. And now the excuse that we always got was, again, they used to have toll takers.
Yep.
I really am dating myself here. So, and so it's like, yeah, well, we're not going to do that because we were going to say trucks only to go that way. And, so it's there. Well, that obviously isn't an excuse anymore. Yeah. And so it's like relatively easy.
And the gantry is far enough down where it'll work.
No one's getting on for free.
Yep. Good answer. Number 7, and I think we're going to be okay for time here. Additional, maybe. It depends on how we go at number 8. Number 7, additional pickleball courts are being built in Westfield. Although used by many, it is still a small portion of the population who use these. Now, are there better ways to spend this money?
Look, I support the pickleball expansion. They certainly are much better used and more significantly used than they were as tennis courts. So in most cases, we're not developing green space; it's already existing, and so. And I will say that the group of individuals that are probably the biggest users of it also have contributed back of their own money and done some fundraising and done some other things, including upkeep. Which is something the city really needs to be making investment on, and I don't mean upkeep in pickleball courts per se, but our parks, and everything else we need to do. We need to hire people to be able to do that and spend some money on that because we don't do a really great job of maintenance. But
you create it, you have to maintain it,
and that's got to be part of the conversation going in.
Number 8. I'm going to give you 2
You made it.
for this one.
Okay.
What is your hot button issue?
The one thing that has always evaded me here is downtown development. And, we have, as a city, we've made significant investments in the infrastructure, whether you're talking the second bridge, the green, which, by the way, I would bring events back to the green. That's how it was designed originally. The connecting linear parks of the waterfalls. I got a lot of grief some 25, 30 years ago when we had, waterfalls and water features in the parks. But, now people are, taking the pictures and that becomes synonymous with the city of Westfield. So you've got the linear park system. Most of the significant infrastructure through the downtown has been improved. And there's been investments made. You got the Greenway, which obviously is fully open now and bringing people into the downtown. So I would encourage the city to get a little creative. So, let's really look at a downtown restaurant district where we provide some incentives for people to come in and open up businesses. I'm totally frustrated all the time that we don't have a larger array. The ones we have are great, and you can find me in the restaurants all the time, but you can have more choices and you can have more restaurants that are there. That's what the concept of the Gaslight District, which was designed some 20 years ago. I mean, again, that was a project that was designed back when I was mayor. That's kind of stealing from San Diego's Gaslight District out there. So I mean, it's really pretty cool. But so it's like, let's get creative and look at the tax incentives that we can provide for restaurants to open up, small businesses to open up. There are a number of women-owned businesses that have really opened up small shops down, small boutique shops that are doing well, and there are some. But let's build off of that momentum and really kind of see that happening. I would also support housing in the downtown, and I think it's part of my former Jim Boardman, my economic development director, used to say the three-legged stool. It's businesses, but you need people to live there as well that are going to spend their money. And Westfield's, like every other community in Western Massachusetts, is aging, and there are people that would really like to be able to sell their current homes and move into the downtown, but there aren't any real options there. So, look, that's another place where I would go with the, what is referred to as the Newberry site. And I know that right now, particularly with the state incentives around housing, that, we could put in some market rate housing that would really do great things, I think, for the downtown. But I think we really need to get creative about, growing that commercial district. And that has frustrated me.
The last question, which we're not going to get to, but I think we already know it. why did you decide to become a city councilor? I only have 30 seconds left, but it's obvious that you care about the city and you want to do well.
Yeah, and I mean, my family's here. We raised our kids here. The kids all went through the public school system here. Westfield has been very good to me as a community, and I think I've got, going back to the very first question, kind of an array of background that I think I can kind of bring some common sense and some reality to the city council. But I'm committed. I think Westfield's a great community, and just really want to see it be its best self.
All right, City Councilor Rick Sullivan, I want to thank you for taking some time to come in and chat with us.
Thank you. Again, great forum. Thank you both.
All right, Pete.